Hello, my name is Hanan Bashir. I'm currently pursuing chemistry from IIT Bombay. Today, I'm going to discuss physical biology section of the course PB 101, Basic Biology for Engineers. Today, we are going to refer to the slides of Sarthak Jain, who is my batchmate. So, let's begin. So, molecular motors are actually protein machine which move on protein microtubules with the help of two legs which they call heads. We know that bacteria move using their part called flagellum, which is attached to their end. They also have a rotating motor type mechanism which the bacteria can use to move using the coiling rotation motion. The proteins perform their function by folding into different shapes. So there are many shapes which they can fold into. So they are actually type of structures. The types are primary, secondary, tertiary, then quaternary, and there's a final one called supramolecular. Primary is the main protein. When it is locally folded, it becomes secondary. Then it is further fold over large range, then it is tertiary. And then later, if we are folding it over the multiple layers, then it is called quaternary. And then the supermolecular is the one where it is further folded on an even larger scale. So what is the function of proteins? So they are regulation, structure, movement, catalysis, transport, and signaling. Then all different types of proteins are made up of 20 different amino acids. They can be combined in different ways to give different types of proteins. The smallest protein which we know is insulin. We need to find the time taken for the protein to sediment to the bottom. We assume that it is facing a buoyant force towards the top, the mg force towards bottom, and the drag force towards top. We are assuming that the mg force is greater than the buoyant force. So when we put it into equation, we get something like this, that mg minus fb equal to gamma v. So gamma is the drag coefficient, and the drag force is proportional to the velocity of the object. Then we solve it. We know that the buoyant force is equal to the density of the liquid times the volume of the object into g. We input it, and then afterwards on solving we get an equation like this. So this gamma, if you recall from the Stokes theorem, it is 6 pi r eta v, which is equal to the drag force. So this gamma equal to 6 pi r eta, and speed equal to distance upon time, and we get time equal to distance upon speed from there. Then in a microscopic world, we know that there are two forces which are dominant, that are viscous and the thermal forces. Other forces can be neglected in this world. Then biological system can be modeled using some components like mass, spring, and dashboards. You have heard of mass and springs already. Dashboards is a new concept which we have introduced. Dashboards are a component on which if a force is applied, then it extends like a spring, but with a constant velocity. Then F equal to ma. If an object is dragged with a force F, then we know the graphs of acceleration, velocity, and displacement are as follows with respect to time. Then this is motion of a spring. If we pull it with force F, then it gets displaced by X, and we know that the coefficient K is the spring constant. This is a displacement graph, and this is a force graph. In the case of dashboard, as I said, when it is facing any force, then the dashboard increases by elongating with a constant velocity, which is given F equal to minus gamma V. And the D represents that this is a drag force, and this gamma is a drag coefficient. In the case of any object sinking into any fluid, we get it is a 6 pi eta r. Now we have a question that if a bacterium is swimming through water at 10 microns per second, how far the bacterium will continue to move after its flagellum stops to move? Assume the radius of the bacteria to be 0.5 micron with density 5 times that of water. So if this is a bacteria and it is swimming, so we use our same equation, that F minus drag force equal to ma, neglecting the buoyant force. At t equal to 0, F equal to 0, and V equal to V naught. Plugging in this into equation, then we'll minus gamma V equal to m dV by dt. On solving this, we'll get a decay function with the coefficient V naught, and it is decaying with the power of gamma t by m. Then we can use this to find the displacement also by integrating it. Now, finding the relation between the dashboard constants, if the dashboards are connected in series or in parallel. So, if it is in series, we know that they both will experience same force F. So, F by gamma 1 equal to V1 and F by gamma 2 equal to V2, and their both sum will be the total velocity in which they are moving. So, we will solve it and we'll get 1 by gamma equivalent is equal to 1 by gamma 1 plus 1 by gamma 2. Then dashboard connected in parallel. So total force will be F1 plus F2. Using this, we will get that the gamma net equal to gamma 1 plus gamma 2. Then we have few questions to ponder over. So we can relate the biological systems which we have, like this dashboard, spring, and the mass, to something which we have already seen in the electrical elements. So it's like a circuit which has a capacitor, inductor, or even a resistor. So these have a counterpart of them in the electrical world too. So we have already seen during our G days that these can be interconverted. Like for example, voltage is analogous to force, current is to velocity, and charge is to displacement. Similarly, capacitor is to spring, because if a capacitor is charging, then it is similar to a spring elongating. Then we have a paper fuse. Paper fuse is any gadget which can be used as a centrifuge to differentiate the components of a given fluid. The paperfuge is actually a smaller version of the centrifuge, which is made to work using hands. Now, laminar and turbulent flow. So, the successive layer of fluid that slid over each other is a fluid motion called laminar, and viscous forces are dominant in such scenario. One example where the laminar forces are there is a corn syrup case, where if you put a rotor and there is a solid cylinder inside it, and you put some few drops of food coloring and then rotate it in clockwise direction or anti-clockwise, and then after that, if you rotate it back to the same spot, then we see that the food coloring does not mix. Instead, it stays in its drop form only. So this is all because of the laminar flow within the corn syrup. So it has so high viscosity that the layers slip past each other, and they, when come back to their original position, they are retracing their path. On the other hand, fluid like water, they show turbulent flow. Their layers mix between each other. So hence water is showing turbulent flow. Now a human being is swimming in water and honey. So we can obviously imagine that it will be more difficult to swim in honey because of its high viscous nature. So we know that viscosity is inversely proportional to 1 by stopping distance. So this leads to a conclusion that a microorganism will see water as a viscous fluid. Viscosity dominates when flow is laminar, and inertia dominates when the flow is turbulent. And in the mathematical terms, we can define F critical equal to eta square by rho, where F critical is the critical viscous force. So if we apply a force which is greater than this F critical, then the liquid will behave like a turbulent or inertial fluid. And if we apply a force less than F critical, then it will behave like a thick fluid, and it will go under laminar flow, and it will appear as a viscous liquid which with high viscosity, because viscous forces will dominate. Now we know that F critical is independent of the length scale. So it doesn't matter we are viewing on which scale, so at the microscopic level or the macroscopic level. Then Reynolds number, ratio of inertial to viscous force. For microscopic world, Reynolds number is very less than 1, and macroscopic it is very greater than 1. So what is the need of defining this Reynolds number at the first place? The reason is that the F critical is independent of the length scale, hence we need some factor which will help us to differentiate the forces which is acting on the different scale levels in the macroscopic as well as the microscopic levels. So the Reynolds number is defined as rho RV by eta. This is the number which can help us to determine whether the liquid is going in laminar flow or it is facing turbulent motion. Then Scallop's theorem. Scallop's theorem basically denotes that if an object is moving in a particular motion inside a fluid and then it retraces its path, then if it is a Newtonian fluid, then it won't get displaced and no motion will be seen. But if it's a non-Newtonian fluid, then the scallop will move front or backwards. So a scallop is just a small machinery which can open and close. Newtonian fluids, those fluids who do not change viscosity when force is applied. The alternate method by which these organisms can survive. One is symmetry breaking. They can do some motion which is not retraceable. So by that the symmetry is broke, and then they can move forward or backward as they wish. So one example is flagella or cilia, which are the thin thread-like structures which are attached to the ends. Or use a non-Newtonian fluid. So organism will either survive in a Newtonian fluid where they will use the symmetry breaking criteria, or they will be present in a non-Newtonian fluid. So as we know that in non-Newtonian fluid, the object, if it traces back to the motion which it did, then it will still move in forward or in the backward direction. Then there's a usual point that in a shear thinning fluid, this viscosity in front would be lower than that in the back, and vice versa for shear thickening. So in the shear thinning fluid, the viscosity in front would be greater. And body moves from high viscosity to low viscosity. This is the tendency of a body to move. Then thermal energy and forces. At normal temperature, protein molecules start moving in a zigzag manner. So it is due to the thermal energy which they possess. And this is very high because in the microscopic level, they cannot control this energy and they convert into kinetic energy immediately. And from that, we observe few things like diffusion of free particle, and this is mainly happened due to the Brownian motion. So this was observed by Robert Hooke, who when was observing pollen grains using microscope, he saw them move in a zigzag pattern, and he first mistook it for presence of life, but actually it wasn't. It was all because of the thermal energy. So thermal energy at room temperature or any temperature is kBT, and if you plug in T 27 degrees or 300 Kelvin, then we'll get the STP thermal energy, and then the thermal energy become more significant at microscopic world. Just as I said, it gets converted to kinetic energy as they can't be stored inside these small bodies. Then at the length scale of biomolecules, different forms of energy become identical, and this energy can be converted to each other. So these small organisms are masters of converting energy from one form to the another. Biomolecules can change the shape, electronic state very feasibly. It turns out that state of a biological system of a molecular scale is determined by comparison between deterministic energy and thermal energy. So the deterministic energy and thermal energy are computed at the small biological level. Boltzmann law. The Boltzmann law states that the probability of finding a particle in a state I with energy EI is given by Pi is directly proportional to e power EI by kBT. So if you plug in the values of the ith energy state into this, we will find that the probability of finding a particle in this state is proportional to this value. So this is actually a macro state. There's a difference between macro state and a micro state. In macro state, I will give an example. So if you're standing and if you're sitting, these two are different macro states. But while standing, you can eat, you can talk, you can laugh. So these activities are micro states, and as well as in sitting also, you can sleep, you can read a book. So these are the micro states in the sitting position. So these are some examples how we can understand what is a macro state and a micro state. We can extend this to the micro states as well. So this is the function which we can use to find the exact probability which a particle will be in the ith state. And z is the summation over all these exponential terms, which is known as a partition function of the system. And this helps us to calculate some thermodynamic properties of the system. Then this is a question which had said that if you have a four-member molecule which is present at energy E in all states except in the states when two molecules are near to each other, then non-bonded atoms, when they are near to each other, then the energy drops by E. So you can see these are all the states which are possible, which were given in the question. But we can see here non-bonded atoms are far away, here also, here also, here. But in this case, we can find that they are equal to the bond length as we see in this molecule. Hence, the energy drops by E, and then we get the energy equal to 0. So in each state, it is E, and then here it drops by E and it becomes 0. So this is the energy state or the configuration where the molecule will prefer to stay. Then we know that the oxygen level drops as we go higher and higher. So we can use this equation to find a height where the oxygen level will drop 1 by E of the amount of oxygen at the lowest level. So we will input all the values here, and then we will observe that it is approximately coming out to be 7.8 kilometers. So we are just plugging in these values and taking the ratio. So the proportionality sign goes, and then we will get this answer. Okay, now we are coming to diffusion. So what is diffusion exactly? So it is the change of concentration in time due to the change of concentration in a particular sphere which we imagine. The net movement of particle is from higher concentration to lower concentration. Diffusion equation can be combined using two laws, namely one the Fick's law and other is the continuity equation. So the Fick's law. So on you doing some calculation, we observe that when there is no flux, there is no diffusion. But when there is a flux which is increasing, we observe that the concentration inside the sphere is decreasing. Similarly, vice versa. When the flux is inside, then we see that the concentration gradient is increasing. So we can relate this with the flux. So how we will do that? We will do that J equal to minus D concentration gradient. And this D is the diffusion constant. And J can be stated as the number of particles passing per unit area per unit time. And this is the continuity equation, which states that the change in concentration with respect to time is equal to the negative of the flux gradient. And this equation is valid only when number of additional particles and materials are added. And when we combine this equation with this above equation, we'll get this final equation, which is the change of concentration with respect to time equal to D into the double gradient of the concentration. and the diffusion equation can be finally solved to give us different various equations which can be possible. So one of them is this one, because it is looking like a Gaussian distribution function, so hence the solution will be obviously a Gaussian, and we can take the average of it. So when we take the average in a 1D dimension, then we'll get the answer 2dt. So with t time, we will get that the outermost boundary will move by 2dt, and in 3D it will move by 6dt. So there will be more diffusion in the 3D case because it has many degree of freedom to move. Now remember that a longer time scale diffusion is not very effective mechanism, and hence the body use active transport over diffusion. So diffusion is a slow mechanism over a large period of time. Then diffusion is isotropic in nature, so it spreads equally in all direction. Colloidal solution. Particles never settle at bottom. For every particle, if we have a force acting on it downwards, some force has to be acting upwards too, and the force might not be equal and opposite. So these are the two forces which can act. One is the force, which is the mg, which we are know. Then this is the drag force upwards, and this is the jf. So this is due to the external force which are applying. So one is the flux due to external force, and one is the flux due to diffusion. So if we ignore the mg, because we are observing in a microscopic world, so we get that the jf minus jd equal to 0. So the external flux which we are observing is equal to this flux which we observe due to diffusion. So jf is due to the flux due to the external force, so which is cv, and it is equal to cf by 6 pi eta r, which we have derived before. And then jd is due to diffusion, which we know from the equation, which is equal to minus d into concentration gradient. And when we equate both of them and plug in the value of c and we solve it further, then we get this Einstein's condition, which is the gamma d equal to kbt. Then r equal to nkb and d equal to kbt upon 6 pi eta r. And when we input this, then we get an equation which predicts the existence of an atom. Then diffusion governs the fluctuation, damping, and dissipation of the system. Reaction diffusion system. These are systems involving constituents locally transformed into each other by chemicals and transported in space by diffusion. Reaction diffusion system in a closed vessel and in absence of external force evolve eventually to the state of chemical equilibrium. Discussed earlier in notes, protein perform their function by folding into different shapes like the primary, tertiary, secondary, and the quaternary. Now we learn how the structure of the proteins are decided. Tubulin and actin monomers are protein molecules which serve as a track for motor proteins. The functional structure of protein is quaternary structure. The amino acids can be broadly classified into two types: hydrophobic, where it is water repelling, hydrophilic, which is water attracting. Classical mechanics tell us that the protein would prefer a structure or conformation which it minimizes energy. However, this is not true when thermal fluctuations are present. In case of thermal fluctuation, systems try to be in state where the free energy is minimum. So free energy, which is given by H minus Ts, this gives free energy, where H is enthalpy, minus Ts, where T is temperature and S is entropy. So we see that the Gibbs free energy reduces when U reduces, and the Gibbs free energy reduces when entropy increases. So these two are cases which we have to keep in mind. And the entropy. So how do we see entropy in this force? So it is a measure of microscopic degeneracy of a macroscopic state. So it is the number of microstates which help us to determine which the particle can exist in. So S equal to KB ln W, where W is a possible microscopic arrangements in a particular macroscopic state. We plug it in here and we get S. Then macroscopic state and microscopic state. So I have differentiated this before also. Then consider a protein molecule which is straight and one it is bent. And it is given that it has 10 microstates in the straight and in 15 microstates in the bent state. So what is the probability of finding the system in one particular microstate? So using the Boltzmann law, we can find that the partition function, and from there we can plug in the energies, and we know that this is the 1/10th probability of finding it here, and this is 1/15th of finding it here if all these are degenerate states, and then if this straight state and the bent state have equal probability of existence. Then we have a question where there is some molecule of this conformation, that HP, H, and P. So it exists in different folder states like this. So it is given that whenever an H is exposed such that it can be interacted from every direction, then E energy will increase for every interaction. So here the total interactions which we can observe, it is 1, 2, 3, and so on. So we'll get 13 bondings possible. You can see where there will be an obstruction due to a neighboring molecule of the same neighboring atom of the same molecule, then we won't get that interaction. So here there is no interference, here also and here also. Here you can observe that there is an interaction of P with H itself. So it is given in question that P can interact with H also. But in this case, you can observe that there is an H disturbing the interaction of the external molecule or the P with this H. So here one interaction energy E drops. Similarly, you can see in this other conformation also there is an interaction energy drop. So here one, and here also there is an interaction energy drop. So there will be 2 E reduced, and hence 11 E will be in this case. Then what will be the structural state of protein at temperature T? So we will plug in these values into this equation, that G equal to H minus Ts. H is for the first state is 13E minus KBT ln 3, W is 3, because we saw that there were 3 microstates. Similarly, there were 2 microstates in the case 2. We plug in W equal to 2 here and L11E. Then when we solve, then we observe that the existence of the closed state, or the second one, is more favorable over the first or the open state. So we can't directly state that unless we solve this equation, and it will depend on the temperature, of course. So if the temperature is greater than this number, then we observe that the conformation of closed will be more favorable over the open conformation. Then there's the question that there's a protein of ABC conformation. Now it is given that the angle made theta can be either 90 or 180. So we have to determine which conformation will be favored. So here this is 180 degree, this is 180, and this is 180, and this is 180. So we can observe total 4 states are possible if this is an imaginary box. So we know that these all are same, but in a box these are different states because they are pointing towards different directions. And these are the 90-degree states. So we observe there are 8 microstates in the bent 90-degree one, and in the straight one there are 4 microstates. And we know that the energy of each microstate here is 0 and here it is A. It is provided in question. On plugging it in, we will get these two values. So depending on the T and A, we can find that which conformation will be more favored. A system always tries to go into a state which minimizes its entropy of disorder. But these toy models are not the case in the real system. In the real world, there are more complex systems which are governed by interactions of other type like electrostatic bending and van der Waals attraction. So if this is protein, then it is folding. So we observe that it will have a least energy when it will be folded into the last state, like in the quaternary or the supermolecular state. And due to various constraints of arrangement of atoms in 3D, neighboring atoms like amino acid, there are some constraints that their arrangement have to satisfy. So collagen is the most abundant protein in human body, which helps in the bending and folding of various parts of body. A protein molecule can be characterized by two protein angles, firstly the phi and the psi, that specify the true relative orientation between the planar peptide units. And so Ramachandran was able to give us a plot which describes that some particular states are more favored and can be accomplished by the given molecule instead of some other states which cannot be accomplished by the given molecule. So the angle phi is the rotatory angle, uh, nitrogen and C alpha of the polypeptide chain, and the angle psi is the angle between C and C alpha. Then gene expression. So cells can be regulated by packaging and reading of DNA. So if this is a long DNA chain which has n binding sites, n places where the protein can bind, and we have m protein molecules. So we see that by using our basic maths knowledge that if the sites are distinguishable, then there will be npm combinations. Otherwise, if they are non-distinguishable, there will be ncm combinations. So if we plug this value into our entropy equation, then we will find that W will be npm in the distinguishable case, and W will be ncm in the case of non-distinguishable one. So this is an example where we have to find that if there is a variable which is defined m by n, and we have given the variation of entropy as such that entropy will be half in this topmost point. So what will be the G in this case? So if we are taking that U equal to minus ME KBT, and we put it here, and then we plug in the W as we used just now, then we can approximate this function as ln nb equal to approximated n ln n minus n. Then this is the entropy equation. On plugging it in here and solving it, we will get this final answer. And then we have to find where we will get the Gibbs free energy is most negative or minimum. So we are differentiating with respective to rho, and we'll find that rho equal to e power epsilon and divided by 1 plus e power epsilon. So we'll get this will be the final state. So this will be all for the physical biology. I hope I was able to cover most of the part. All the best for your exams. Thank you.